Anthony looked dominating in the fight, but there is no way I'm that bad, right? It's obvious I was not even trying. All I care about is the money. I don't want to say I was paid to lose, but I think fans are smart enough to realize what they saw in that ring.
Right, I don't think he was there to actually fight him. What was the game plan? Stick and move, try and lunge in, try and shoot in a takedown? No, that's not how you win a boxing fight.
I didn't think it was a great AJ performance. Eventually, he did what he was supposed to do, but it wasn't the AJ performance we were looking for in terms of, this is the guy I want to go see fight Tyson Fury. But when he hit him with that right hand, and there's a picture out, Leo, if you'll find it and put it on the screen for me here, I want to say this. Everybody this week talked about Jake Paul rigged fight, Jake Paul rigs this, Jake Paul fixed fight, Jake Paul script that. Look at this picture of Jake Paul's mouth. I mean, what a railroad would look like if an earthquake hit right.
His jaw has reportedly been broken apart. Online rumors are spreading fast claiming Jake Paul might have taken money to lose. But once again, that is speculation from fans, not proven information.
Let's put the earnings of the Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua fight into perspective. Both fighters took home $93 million each in just 16 minutes. That's more than what Michael Jordan made in his 15-year career. Every 3 minutes, they made $15 million each, which is the same as the entire budget for one episode of Game of Thrones. Every single minute of the fight, they made $5 million each, which is more than what the New York Knicks make from one home game. And every single second of the fight, they made $93,000 each. That's more than what 85% of Americans make in 1 year. That makes the Paul vs. Joshua fight the second highest paid fight in 2020.
Yet it shows how unusual this fight felt for many viewers. Joshua, a fighter known for finishing bouts fast, held back until the 6th round before letting go. That delay by itself had everyone online buzzing.
Out, make Jake hold his weight and have the referee separate. That led to Jake, as soon as he felt AJ putting his weight on him or pushing him down, hitting the floor, diving at AJ's knees, and then eventually Jake would go to clinch and immediately fall to the ground on his own. And this became a problem because then it looked intentionally like Jake was going to the ground. There was one time where Jake went to the ground and AJ kept swinging on him. That I didn't like to see, but this was Jake's survival of the fittest moment. This was Darwinism in a boxing ring, right? He had to do whatever he could to just extend the fight and get one more, hope and pray shot, one more step back. He had a great step back uppercut, I think in the 4th round that almost, it clipped AJ. Honestly, you could see what AJ had said in their face-to-face, that he needed to break Jake's soul.
On top of that, AJ seemed far more patient than usual, almost slow compared to his normal pace in the early rounds. For some fans, this stood out as another sign and pushed the conspiracy talk even further. People started asking, since when does Anthony Joshua move this calmly without throwing his shots, especially against an opponent who was constantly backing away?
A days early on, just walking him around, touching the jab on his shoulder, not really pulling the trigger on the right hand. Didn't look like he got out of first gear. Jake Paul was just on pure survival mode from round 1 right through to round 6. I don't know if he's got a moral victory going 6 rounds. Maybe he has. People might give him credit for going 6 rounds, but he got in there and just survived. He just went in there and ran like a chicken from round 1 right through to round 6 when he got splattered. And it's like, it's just, you can't really justify what he's done, because this is supposed to be a professional sanctioned boxing match. And I think it brings the integrity of the sport down when somebody like AJ, is a 2-time world champion, can't get in there and just completely dismiss somebody like Jake Paul, who I've said for ages.
From that point, the argument really takes off. Some people honestly believe there is no situation where Jake Paul lasts 6 rounds with a heavyweight hitter like AJ unless something held the finish back. They point out that Joshua has stopped experienced professionals much faster than that. Yet in this fight, he allowed Jake to move around, grab hold, and keep distance for long stretches. That is where the quiet doubts start for some viewers. To them, it felt partly like a real contest, and partly like controlled timing where the fight was extended before ending when expected. And look, I am not saying the fight was fixed, because boxing does not really work that way, but I can understand why people question things when AJ did not push early and looked a step slower than normal. In the end though, no matter what ideas fans came up with, Joshua eventually threw that right hand with real intent. The second it landed, all the conspiracy talk disappeared because no plan explains a jaw being shattered like that. Whatever anyone thinks about how the fight built up, the ending was pure heavyweight reality.
Moved around the ring at 100 miles an hour. There's two things I would have done. Tried to shut Jake down at 100 miles an hour, or I would have gone on the back foot. So Jake decided to move around the ring, and I decided to put the pressure on. What I could have done better is a lot of things. 100%. In the fight game, you've seen the amazing fighters that have graced us over the last 100 years. And the expectations that we put on ourselves are immense, but
moving seamlessly from all the Paul Joshua drama into Johnny Nelson's analysis feels like going from flashy highlights to real gym floor insight. Johnny isn't trying to hype anything up, he's here to break it down. Listening to him, you can almost hear the punches landing as he explains what every true fighter understands. A man determined to survive is the toughest opponent of all. Johnny describes Jake as someone who saw Anthony Joshua in the ring like a statue built from power and immediately chose to run rather than engage.
Going to kick in instinctively, he ran instinctively. He tried to spoil instinctively. He just wanted to survive. And any fighter knows, the general public won't get it. Any fighter knows if you're in there with someone that just wants to survive, they are the hard.
And honestly, when Johnny says that instinct takes over, I believe him, because we all saw it happen once reality set in. The confident talk disappeared and survival mode kicked in. What I like is how he also points out the challenge for AJ, saying it's actually tougher than it seems when someone won't fight, keeps slipping, dropping, and wasting time like it's a side job. Johnny's view that fans expected a quick cinematic knockout, but got a slow drain of confidence is harsh, but true, because this fight wasn't about showmanship, it was about the unavoidable outcome.
To go and fight. I think Jake Paul had a reality check to all these bold predictions that he was going to do. Reality kicked in once he was stood there in that big 22-foot ring with Anthony Joshua in the corner. All of a sudden he's got to back up the post and he's thinking, damn, I really have to back up the post. And then he realised once the bell had gone, this is real. So he did everything he could to survive. And in a way, I felt sorry for Anthony Joshua because I thought, this guy, he didn't want to fight. He's going to keep moving and moving and moving. And yeah, Jake threw one or two desperate haymakers, hoping it'd hit something.
When he describes that one clean punch finally landing and shattering not just Jake's jaw, but his confidence, that is pure boxing insight, not online gossip. He even gives Jake credit in a subtle way, saying he created the moment, drew attention, and played the game perfectly. But once the bell rang, the fantasy ended. The clearest point Johnny makes is saying this fight didn't make AJ any better, it just reminded everyone who owns reality. No hype, no hate, just a former pro speaking honestly. When belief meets experience, experience doesn't hurry, it waits, and eventually it takes over.
AJ was getting frustrated because he wanted that clean KO. And so the time when the one clean shot hit him, it broke his jaw and he went down. So he knew, realistically, if you're in a fight and you get hit, sometimes you're going to get hit and you'll try and bullshit and get your way through. The one clean shot we saw get hit with, he had a choice of staying up or going down. And he's like, nope. It was like a split-second time delay. And he had to.
And moving straight from Johnny Nelson's cold old-school insight, the tone shifts again when Michael Bisping speaks, because now it's less gym wisdom and more blunt couch-side reaction. Listening to Bisping, it's clear he isn't buying the idea that this was some hidden classic to study later. He's basically saying, yeah, AJ won, but let's not pretend it was fireworks. And I get it. We all saw Joshua stalking like a man waiting for a bus set up for him, while Jake used the ring like a cardio track, circling, slipping, grabbing, and sometimes forgetting this wasn't MMA. Bisping calling AJ sloppy and hesitant isn't hate, it's expectation. When you've seen Joshua flatten real heavyweights, you expect danger, not patience that almost feels polite.
Stepped in the ring. They were paid $92 million. They both get to go home to their families, and no one got injured. No one's dead. No one's going to the hospital. They're both fine. Apparently, Jake Paul claims that he's got a broken jaw, spat a little bit of blood out, right? But the fight itself wasn't anything to remember. It really wasn't, right? Anthony Joshua was a little sloppy. He was tentative. He took his time. He said he was trying to break him down, look for the shots. And maybe it's because he's been out the ring for 15 months, okay? And last went up against Daniel Dubois. Or maybe it's because he felt like a bit of a bully going up against Jake Paul, but he didn't seem like he...
And the funniest part is Bisping admitting he looked away for a moment and missed the finish, which honestly sums up the fight better than any scorecard. Jake going for takedowns like Herb Dean might jump in at any second. The referee trying to remember which sport he was in. And AJ almost overthinking something that was always going to end the same way. That was the chaos we watched. I like that Bisping stays fair though, because he respects the courage without pretending the plan made sense. Basically saying surviving isn't the same as truly competing. And when he compares it to real finishes, real exchanges, real danger, you hear the fighter in him saying this wasn't about skill gaps closing, it was about time running out. In the end, it felt like a show that sold big, paid everyone, and reminded us that heavyweight boxing doesn't care how famous you are. Eventually, someone lands, and the story finishes itself, whether the pacing was smooth or not.
Anthony Joshua once. He never rung his bell. He never caused any damage. He never had him worried. He never did anything. It wasn't a fight. It was a display of how long can Jake Paul last. Can he run away long enough for it to be credible? Can he stay away and disengage long enough to where he can be proud of going 6 rounds with Anthony Joshua? And it sounds like I'm being a hater. I'm not being a hater. I'm just saying what I saw, right? I don't think he was there to actually fight him. What was the game plan? Stick and move, try and lunge in, try and shoot in a takedown? No.
And as we move out of Bisping's brutally honest take that this wasn't a classic, the tone softens slightly when Eddie Hearn speaks, because now it's less roast and more grown-up perspective. Listening to Eddie, you can hear the promoter-fighter translator mode kick in, like, alright, jokes aside, let's face reality. He's basically saying, yeah, Jake ran, yeah, Jake held, but he also survived something that would have turned most heavyweights into instant highlight clips. And that right-hand Eddie's tone makes it clear that wasn't a tap, that was a lights-out shot that somehow didn't end the fight immediately. You don't have to like the style to respect the toughness, and Eddie giving Jake credit feels less like hype and more like proper boxing etiquette. The kind that says you stepped in deep water and didn't drown. It's interesting how the story flips here. A fighter who began as a novelty is now being discussed in terms of durability, recovery, and whether his jaw will ever forgive him. That alone shows how strange and wild this crossover era has become.
Even the shot that shattered his jaw would have knocked out most heavyweights. As in, I mean, I know he was knocked out, but as in cold. That was the right hand light he landed on and gone. And you saw what he did to him. So respect to Jake Paul. It's a very tough injury to come back from, that kind of injury. I don't know the severity of it, but if he has broken his jaw, you know, it's a tough one to come back from. But he's a crazy f***er, and we take our...
And then Eddie shifts smoothly, as expected, to the bigger picture. And that's where I really paid attention. He admits the early rounds were frustrating, not because AJ was bad, but because you can't gather data when the opponent keeps moving away. New team, long layoff, tricky opponent, and suddenly those rounds feel like paid sparring with someone whose only goal is survival. Eddie basically says if AJ had finished him in 45 seconds, people would cheer, but we'd learn nothing. Instead, Joshua got rounds, patience, and a reminder that cutting off the ring against a mover who refuses to trade is a skill in itself. I also like how Eddie reframes Jake from average to decent. That's not charity, that's growth. Not elite or championship level, but enough to make you work and stay uncomfortable. When a promoter gives that kind of measured respect, it resonates. So while Bisping saw an underwhelming spectacle, Eddie saw value, rounds, and a reminder that boxing doesn't always reward fireworks. Sometimes it rewards survival, adjustments, and the uncomfortable truth that not every win looks pretty, but every win matters.
The amount of shots that he took in the end, and that he wasn't out cold. That's what I was surprised about, you know. And I said, he's going to do very well to not get hurt in this fight. Unfortunately, he got badly hurt with his jaw, but still, he deserves a lot of credit.
AJ's performance, I mean,
Good. I mean, first 2 or 3 rounds, a little bit frustrating because you've been out of the ring for a year and a half, and you've got a guy that's just running around the ring, and you can say you've got to cut him off, but when they're moving at that kind of speed and they're holding up close, but his clinching was quite good, Jake. Like, listen, I'm not saying he's going to go and win a world title, but he just fought Anthony Joshua.
So when you step back from all of it, the rumors, the patience, the survival tactics, the delayed finish, the old school analysis, the fighter critiques, and the promoter's view, you're left with a fight that sparked far more talk than it delivered clean action. And maybe that was always part of the plan. Some will say it felt odd, slow, even suspicious. Others will say it was just heavyweight reality meeting an opponent who refused to engage. Honestly, both perspectives have merit. That's why this fight doesn't end when the bell rings. It lives on in debates, replays, and the endless what-ifs that divide opinions. So now I want to hear from you. Was it smart patience, awkward survival, or simply a spectacle that ended exactly as it had to? Share your thoughts in the comments. Keep it respectful, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Boxing Headquarters. See you next time.